Hey, to this week's Music Career Study Group. We've got a great live stream for you. It's going to be a good one. We're going to be talking about email, the most underutilized tool by artists to drive real money for their music. My name is Kevin. Chris, I got my name right this time. And
Yep.
over there is Chris. While everyone's getting settled in, say hi in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. And we would love it if you could like the video, give it a thumbs up, or if you could share it so your other artist friends could get on the goods as well. We call this the Music Career Study Group because it's about the artist community getting together and all of us learning from one another. So as we're talking about stuff, if you have questions or if you have stories about how you've tried certain things, today we're talking about email, like I said. If you've got some success stories or some strategies you want to share or questions, like I said, feel free to weigh in on that. Again, this is the Music Career Study Group. If you're just joining us, people are just piling in. Any live stream, the first couple minutes, people are just signing on. Say hi in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. We get artists from all over the world. We got Atlanta in the house, um, South
South
Africa,
Africa.
Boston, Iowa,
And
and
Miles is being a wise guy. This chat is where we post our personal email, right? Hey,
yeah,
if you want, but I didn't tell you to do it.
yeah.
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, we've got people from all over. Last week was wild. We had people from like every corner of the planet. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was just artists, they needed something to do on a Thursday afternoon, midday, morning, wherever. Well, I know it's not morning for most people, unless you're on the West Coast like me, it's still morning. But for a lot of
Orlando.
you, it's further in the day. Again, like I mentioned, we are going to be talking about an email strategy to fire up your super fans. And as mentioned, this is one of the most underutilized tools by artists. We've been trained by media to spend all our time toiling away on social media for why we don't know, maybe the chance of a viral hit. All the while, this amazing tool that is still more relevant than ever has been sitting there right there, that drives people to take action, that drives people to spend money. Every business uses it, and any thriving business has a real email strategy going. And so today we're going to be talking about email marketing, and Chris put together an amazing presentation for us that's really going to dive into all of it. And again, if you're just joining us, this is the Music Career Study Group. Say hi in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. And Chris, with that, let's dive in.
Yeah, so you mentioned email being underutilized. And some of the things we're going to talk about today will be, intermediate to advanced type email practices. They're still worth knowing because I think every artist should be building towards using them. But if your problem right now as an artist is you simply don't use your email, which is usually the problem number
Yes.
one. So
we're all guilty of it.
Yeah.
We all go through times, even if we have done stuff with email, where we're like, man, I should be doing more.
Yeah, so if that's the situation you're in and you don't want to have to spend $30 or $50 or $80 a month or whatever your fancy email service would quote you, you should be using what's called FanReach. It comes with your Reverb Nation membership. It's included, and it is a very simple, basic email tool where you can essentially grow your list without being worried about accruing costs the bigger your list gets. You can send real-time emails. It's super easy to use, and it's probably the best way to just get to work sending emails. And then, if you want to explore more of the advanced stuff, you can kind of graduate to that. But you probably, if you're a Reverb Nation member, well, not probably, you've definitely already got FanReach without having to spend any more money.
Yeah, and it's called FanReach inside your Reverb Nation account. And on the screen, Chris has something about distribution, because a lot of artists don't know that, hey, Reverb Nation has all these great marketing tools, but I didn't realize you do distribution. Yes, you can distribute a song for as little as $1. Or if you want the full suite of marketing tools and get premium membership, it comes with unlimited music distribution. So lots of great tools in there, which you can access all from one place. I was in my Reverb Nation FanReach account this morning, messing around with it. And it's so easy to just select a track and promote it to your fans. It creates these amazing landing pages for your music. They look great. And it's an easy way to just collect names as well. All the lists the email names are right there. So like Chris said, if you graduate, you can just export it easily. There's no funny business. You own the contact information. And that's one of the key things that we're going to be talking about email, why it's so important.
Yeah, Miles, actually, you're saying you have 300 people on your Bandzoogle list. You think you sent 2 emails last year. Am I right in saying that your email comes with your Bandzoogle fee? If so, don't worry about it. But if you have to pay extra for that, just use Reverb Nation.
It does. I think it does. Well, I'm not sure. There's several different tiers of Bandzoogle, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, and before we get deeper into today's topic, which is email strategies to fire up your superfans, here's a reminder that we're live every Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m., and some episodes we've got coming down the pike. For a Valentine's themed episode, we have 10 things to love about a music career. And that sounds maybe a little, emotional and vague. We will make sure for each of those points we've got some actionable tips, and it's not just a pep talk.
And also,
we need a pep talk too.
Yeah, every once in a while, we need a good pep talk. Making music is hard. But also, the Music Career Study Group, any week you can bring your questions and leave them in the chat, and we'll try and get them on the show. So if there's something that you've encountered just out in the wild while trying to pursue a music career and make music, and you're like, hey, does anybody even know what this means? Feel free to ask those questions here. This is a safe space. We created it because so much of our learnings over the years as artists, Chris and I, have been just by talking to other independent musicians that are doing really cool stuff and hearing how they made something happen, the strategy they used and the tools they used. And that's why we're here, to learn from one another.
Yeah. Oh, what's up, Charlie? Hello.
Oh, Charlie, happy birthday.
Oh,
he still managed to weigh in, even though he's not listening.
Birthday night. I know. What is he, in the bathroom at the bar he's at? So the topic today, email marketing for musicians, how to get the most out of it, how to use it as an amazing tool to drive specific actions. Email marketing is the most effective way to get your fans to take an action if you use it the right way. And that's a big if. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Why is email marketing so important? A lot of people think, oh, no one checks their email anymore. Kids don't use email. False. Very, very wrong. Here are some statistics that prove why you should be concentrating. Oh, what's
up? Turn your mic up just a pinch. It says we really need to get StreamYard to add some audio tools, because it went back and forth. Chris, they just either can't get enough of you or you're just too much.
Too much. I know. How's this? Any better?
Also, while you pause in the action, Miles also said it's his birthday today as well.
Happy birthday, Miles. Happy birthday, Charlie. Okay, it looks like my mic is okay. So when you're thinking about why you should be using email, first of all, everyone's got an email, almost everyone. It's basically like your social security number or your digital ID. You're going to need an email when you use social apps, when you reset your passwords because you forgot your passwords to all the social apps, signing documents. There's endless numbers of reasons why you need an email. So 4.5 billion people around the world have email addresses. 88% of those users check their email multiple times a day. And this is a stat that makes me think that kids are lying when they say, oh, I don't use email. Like 88% of 4.5 billion people check their email multiple times a day. When it comes,
well, I was just going to add that all our bills have gone electronic and all the important documents. So nobody's getting paper anymore. It's very rare. You have to keep asking to get paper if you want paper. So people have to check email for important things.
Yep. And as far as its use for business, 59% of consumers who buy stuff online say that marketing emails influence their purchasing decisions. So not only is email delivering the offer and the call to action that makes someone buy it, but receiving a bunch of emails before that offer kind of warms them up to the purchase. Next, when you're using it for your business, it's super valuable because unlike maybe 10 or 20 years ago, people don't change their emails that often anymore. They're going to stick with the one they have because it's associated with all their accounts. 80% of small businesses cite email as their number one tool for client retention. And also, when you've got a customer's email or a fan's email, it's yours. Now you kind of co-own that relationship with the person who gave you their contact info, as opposed to when you're communicating with people through social. Those are rented audiences, essentially, because You don't control where and how people see your stuff. As we saw with TikTok, these platforms could go away and you lose that connection altogether.
Well, let's pause there, Chris, because I don't want to just breeze past that point, because probably I would say 90 to 100% of all the marketing activity of people watching this live stream and the content we post afterwards are focusing 100% of their attention, 90 to 100% of their attention on social platforms, where the majority of people that have said, raised their hand and said, I like this artist, I want to see their content, the majority of them will never see what you post. Mm-hmm. It's staggering to me. In fact, I know that Instagram's been messing with their algorithm. Chris and I were talking recently about several people that make certain kinds of content that we both follow and comment on. And I'm like, did this person just stop? I haven't seen this person in forever, in months. I haven't seen this person or this person. Nope. It's just, I don't see their stuff anymore. And it wasn't because I didn't like it. I liked it. I engaged with it, but they just decided I don't get to see it. So you are totally renting your audience. And the whole point of these platforms is to keep your attention, and so they can show you ads. And that's not the best way to engage with your fans. Now, I'm not saying social has no value, but I'm just saying when it comes to what most people want, they want fans to take action. They want fans to buy stuff. They want them to show up at shows. They want to listen to music. If you're not using email, you're taking the harder path.
Yeah. And that's a segue to the next bit of data here, which is that your open rates for email, that just means how many people are actually opening the emails you send out of this size of your list, are usually going to beat the reach that you have through algorithmic stuff that's happening on social platforms. So if you're doing email well, 25 to 35% open rate is very, very solid. That means a quarter or slightly more than a quarter of your email audience is actually opening your email. Of those people, 1 to 3% clicking through to a link that you might be sending people to is a really solid rate. And when you compare that to social, even if you're doing it very, very well, usually only 10 to 12% of your followers, let's say on Instagram, see any one of your posts. So just right there, email beats social.
Yep.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I just said yep.
Oh, then and the next reason, this is super compelling from a sort of small business standpoint, which if you're trying to have a career in the music industry, you are a small business, is that email lets you automate communication at very low cost. So businesses who have automated messages that get sent out, or automated journeys or flows or sequences, say that it drives 120% gain in revenue compared to their kind of one-off non-automated emails. And email has an average of 3,600% ROI. That ROI is return on investment. So basically that means for every dollar you spend sending emails, you're going to earn $36. That's a massive ROI, and another reason why you should be using email.
Yeah, and we don't need to get into the details today, but somebody who creates a lot of content around music marketing posted a very detailed breakdown of where they were spending money for. This was all on social, and how much money they were spending for ads, the amount of streams and return they were getting, and it was an extremely negative ROI. Mm-hmm. And so in business, ROI, return on investment, if it's not positive, if you have a boss and you show, hey, I got a negative ROI, you're not going to have that job very long. That might be your last day. But a positive, you can go and show somebody, I've got a 3,600% ROI. They're going to be like, dang, you're running the company. You're super smart.
Yeah, I'm imagining that conversation. I'm great at losing money for this company.
I'm great at losing money. Hey, that way, artists, we're great at losing money. That's the new slogan.
So the next slide, I wanted to just say, what's the problem then? If email is so clearly amazing and so great at driving profit, driving results for small businesses, which musicians are, then where are artists going wrong? Well, there's a few things. First of all, most artists prioritize vanity metrics. They're prioritizing Instagram engagement or Instagram following, Spotify streams, YouTube views, things that are kind of a metric that shows a surface level of kind of mass engagement. But again, it's surface level. It doesn't mean you actually have a thriving business. The second problem I run into a lot is that musicians can just be really sheepish about marketing. We get shy. We think we're being presumptuous if we say, like, I made this awesome thing. You're going to want it for this amazing reason. So go get it now. We don't like to brag about ourselves. So I think that holds us back. Whereas, if you're a shoe company and you made an awesome shoe, well, you just brag about it. And for both of those reasons, I think we underutilize the existing connection we have with existing fans. These people who have already said they like our music, whether there's 5 of them or 5 million of them, are the ones who are most likely to buy the thing, to take the action you want. And we should be talking to them more and better than we talk to that, again, sort of mass audience of service level engagement.
Yeah. Before we move on, Chris, there's a couple comments and a couple things I want to mention here, though. Most of the time with social, like we're really speaking at a discovery level. Like we're trying to get people to discover us. And Chris just made a good point about how with email, these are people that are typically bought in for some reason, and that they are ready to be nurtured. And they're the ones that are going to spend money. They're the ones that are going to go to shows. They're the ones that are going to go listen to your music, and we're not speaking to them. And that's a big warning sign of like, we're always complaining about we don't have enough time to make more music because we have to do all these marketing things, but we're choosing to spend our time on the things that get less results typically. Also, I want to say we've had more people join in. You're watching the Music Career Study Group. We're talking about email strategies to fire up your super fans. And feel free to like this video, leave a comment, let us know where you're watching from. Barry had a comment I wanted to put on the screen. He said a majority of people with email account, when seeing that someone or business sends them, email won't open due to hackers. I would not say that's a majority. I'd say that was a minority. In fact, most people have gotten good at recognizing what's spam and what's not spam. And it's pretty obvious when you see a spammer. Most of the more advanced spamming things aren't going to be emails coming from an artist. They're going to be trying to imitate PayPal or something like that, or a bank email. But we already showed the stats. Chris didn't make those stats up. Those stats don't lie. People are using email. People are looking at email. And so we shouldn't have assumptions that aren't tested, because you could try email and it not work, but we're going to get to the reasons why that might be.
Yeah, and also if you think of your own email habits, if you're on the list of a company, you probably expressed interest in that. For me, it's Universal Audio. There's a few brands that I follow on purpose. I'm interested in their content and their offers. So when I see it in my inbox, I don't assume it's a hacker. I'm like, oh, that's that company I love. I might open it, I might not, depending on a number of factors we'll get to. But I think the same is true for artist email lists. If someone signs up to Barry James's email list, it's because they like like your music. So when you send them an email, they'll know it's you. They're not going to have suspicions.
And also, we may get to it in a minute. I'll save my comment. Remind me, the key word is billboards. Remind me that. Because
okay, maybe you should say it now before you forget.
Well, I was going to say with email, because like I'm on an enormous amount of lists too, just like what you said. You mentioned Universal Audio. I'm on their list. They are supplying the interface that both of us are speaking through right now that connects to our computer. You sometimes email, it's like you think, well, I don't want to send an enormous amount of emails. I'll bother people. From some companies, I get 3 or 4 emails a day. That can be excessive. But there's some companies I get that I love that I get an email a day. Do I look at all of them? No. But when it's important to me and I'm thinking about that thing, it's right there. And why I've said billboards, it's like, I remember taking these long road trips with my family every summer. And when you're driving across Arizona, New Mexico, there's like billboards every quarter of a mile for like whatever the thing is. And it's
literally the thing.
And you just tune them out until you care and you need the bathroom or you got to eat. And then suddenly those billboards are everything. And you got to think about some of your marketing efforts like that, especially with email, because it's like people might seem uninterested until they care. And so that's partly of what we got to do with our strategies here, get them to care.
Yeah. Well, so before we tell you how, here are some of the things you can achieve for your music via email. deepen fan interest. You can tell your story. You can share your art. You can get people closer and closer to feeling invested in your artistry and your personality. You can keep audiences primed. And this is very important. What this means is that you might not always have something you need people to do right away. Maybe it's going to be 6 months before your album's done or 3 months before your video comes out. When you put those things out, you want to drive massive engagement for it. But if you just let your email go dormant or you let your audience connection go dormant, some of those people might fall off. This way, when you use email the way we're going to tell you to do it, you'll keep people in your orbit so that when you have super important things, they are primed to take action. Like it's sort of like what you were just talking about with the billboard. You're top of mind for them, basically. You can use what we call lead magnets. This is just a prize or, something nice you give someone in return for them giving you the contact info. So having a good lead magnet is one of the best ways to build your email list. You can drive sales clearly, and that can be through active offers like, hey, got a new album, go buy it, or want 20% off the vinyl, those sorts of things. But there's also some ways to drive passive sales, by which I mean just constantly giving people the opportunity to kind of, make a purchase on their own. We'll talk a bit more about that later. You can boost, we said don't focus too much on vanity metrics and social engagement streaming, but you can use email to boost that sort of content as well. And lastly, I think it's a great way to teach yourself how to improve in your messaging. So if you only use email 3 times a year or 6 times a year, it's not enough of a habit for you to have kind of these baseline metrics to compare yourself against. But if you're mailing people every single week, you got lots of chances to say, hey, this one didn't perform as well. That one performed better. I wonder why. Am I getting better at subject lines? Are my emails too long? You can basically keep asking yourself questions to continually improve. So those are some of the big opportunities you have.
Yeah. There's with email, just like anything, there's right ways to do it and there's wrong ways to do it. It all comes down to it's still a communication channel, and you got to understand how the platform works. The great thing about email is there's no algorithms that are constantly changing secretly without you knowing what's being prioritized. There's some basic, simple marketing techniques with email that are always true. And now, culturally and how we communicate, some things might shift, and we'll get into in a bit. But it's so much easier to master email and look at what you did and understand why it didn't work. Because on social, like Chris and I, we make content all the time where we're studying what's working. We're doing lots of things, and then we try it and it doesn't work. And we're like, well, that sucked. And we did exactly what all the people said to do, and it didn't work. Well, it's because they're secretly changing how the algorithms and what feature, all the stuff behind the scenes that you just can't know. Where email, that's not happening. Miles said, I love that there are more and more people watch every week. Let's give Kevin and Chris a hand by hitting the like button and making a comment. Thanks, Miles. Miles, last week, I don't think you were here. There was 100 people watching the whole time. It was wild. It's crazy. But yes, if you hit that like button, it helps us. And a reminder, you're watching the Music Career Study Group. We have people jumping in. Feel free to say hi in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. And if you've got a question about email marketing or marketing in general, feel free to drop it in. And then,
Sibiriak is basically saying one of the benefits of email is you control the experience, you control the content, the design. I'm going to address some things about design in a few slides, but yeah, that's totally true. So again, you've now known email is worth using. It can be effective. It's going to do some great things for your career. How do you make sure the time you spend on it actually drives some results? So that's where we're going to get into now. The first thing you want to make sure is that you drink Topo Chico.
That's right. They have not sponsored, but I would gladly accept a sponsorship from them.
And a mason jar of Everclear.
Yeah. Chris and his moonshine up there in Maine, up in the sticks in Maine. That's all they drink is moonshine.
So I put this here first because essentially your email is going to be worthless if no one opens it, right? So what you can do is make sure people actually see your email. And so there's some things, even before I talk about your subject line and stuff, you're going to want to make sure it's sent from a trustworthy domain name. You will, want to make sure you're not ending up in spam people's spam folders, and some of the things we'll talk about will help you prove trustworthy to the Gmails and Outlooks of the world. But another thing you can do is have great subject lines. So 42% of email recipients, the first thing they see is your sender name. So that should be your artist name, your band name, your personal name, something that's immediately recognizable to people. Next thing, 34% of people first look at the subject line. So subject line should be something that doesn't give it all away, because if you give it all away, someone could say, that doesn't interest me. So if you say like, hey, my new album's out today, someone could immediately say, I'm not interested in hearing that today. I'll listen to it on Friday. And now they don't need your email. So you want to make sure the subject line has a bit of mystery, some emotional hook that makes them click into the email and open it up. Next thing that people see is that preview text. And your preview text also should not give it all away. If you answer the question that's in your subject line with the preview text, people, again, don't need to open the email. So you want that to be sort of supporting the mystery that leads them in, but not giving away the whole thing. So,
well, Chris, go back to that one slide, because there's a couple things I want to mention on that. I'm making sure there's nothing objectionable here that somebody sent me an email, but I was like, okay, this is, my phone. That's my email inbox. I know it's hard to see. And in that little box, you can't see it all.
Or I could solo you here.
No, don't worry. We'll see. It doesn't work. Don't. Just keep it here. It doesn't matter. If you open your phone and you look, what Chris is talking about, the sender name, that's bolded at the top. So I easily scan who the sender is. Now, here's some things where you can screw up. If you're using an email platform and you don't put the sender name in, it could say no reply at such and such. That indicates like, who is this? Maybe they need to get their email game together. Or if it said my artist alter ego is Red Machine. If it said Red Machine 548Z167YZ blah, that's somebody who's ripped that off and that's spam. So that's the first thing. Then underneath it is the subject line. And you'll notice that the subject line gets truncated after so long. So like trying to get the meat of the message before it gets cut off. You don't have to always make sure it fits in there. But then what he's talking about, the preview text, is the little thing underneath. And so as people scan, like TurboTax sent me an email, important, your tax info needs attention. I'm like, oh crap, what? And then under words, it says confirm your details and switch in seconds. So that's how you can use those three things to make sure that you are getting people to open your emails. And that's how you experience it on a daily basis.
Malia says, creating good subject lines reminds me of creating YouTube thumbnails. It definitely takes strategy to get people to click and open. Yeah, it's a whole kind of pursuit unto itself, for sure.
But the good news is, again, no algorithms are changing. This is just your brain and all the information about what's a good subject line. And there's even some AI tools now that help you write good subject lines, or ChatGPT is great for like, give me 10 subject lines that would be what encourage people to open based on this information about what I'm going to share and all that, and who's on my list. Yeah.
Mark, thanks. We'll see you every Thursday. We'll take attendance. Make sure you're here.
Yep.
Thank you. So I have some rules for sending my own emails when I'm marketing my own music, and they're rules that I am perfectly fine breaking once in a while, because again, like in order to keep some dynamics to your email, you don't want them to all be super formulaic. Not every email needs to do every one of these things, but I think as just a sort of starting rule, it's good to try to check as many of these boxes as possible. So first rule for me is that there's no such thing as a newsletter anymore. We used to, as musicians, not send email for 3 months and then be like, oh crap, I have 15 things to tell everyone. And then you write 25 paragraphs with 18 links. And the effect of that cumulatively is that people don't read it. They look at that wall of text and they're like, nope, don't have time.
Not going to do it.
I have 3 minutes between my work meeting and going to get a snack. I'm not reading that. So instead, you should send much more frequent emails with one single thing. One news item. And again, Kevin, to your point that it's fine to send emails many days of the week, go ahead and do that. If you have 5 awesome things that happened this week, send 5 emails. It will be a way better practice than the sort of bundling up of the newsletter. Next, I try to keep it text only. And actually, it could be like literally text only formatting, no design, no fancy stuff. Because again, with so many different ways of people checking on so many different devices, sometimes the fancier you try to make it visually, like the more that gets lost in translation. So I think it's worth avoiding for that reason. But oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say some spam filters, especially people have emails set in various ways that some people filter out if there's a lot of images in it, and it can trigger spam or go into the social file in Gmail. So experimenting with text only or one image is really good.
Yeah, and two other benefits to keeping it text only is that if you don't have to go and take a screenshot or fly in a photo or make a YouTube thumbnail or whatever, you're saving time. And if you can write these emails quickly, I said like one news item, that could be one sentence, it could be one paragraph. If all you need to do is write a paragraph with no other visual elements, you will make a habit of sending email way more often. And then the other thing is, I find that images tend to answer the question or the mystery to some degree where it makes it less likely for a person to click through. If you want people to watch your YouTube video, plant the mystery in the text so they need to click through to have any visual answer. As opposed to the thumbnail, you now may tell half your audience, oh, well, that's what the vibe of that is. Cool. Question's answered. You don't want to answer the question before they click through. That leads to the next point. Every email should either have a mystery or a question. The mystery would be the thing they need to click through to go to some other place to scratch the itch, solve the mystery. If you don't have a call to action where they need to click through to something, ask a question, because the more people reply to your emails, the more all those Gmail and Hotmail and Outlook will say, oh, this is a valuable email to this recipient. They're responding. So clearly they want to continue seeing all of this person's messages. Did you have any before I keep going?
No, I have some. I think I'll say some after the next one.
All right. So my next rule, I think I created this rule for myself a few years ago, which is start with the button. And that is the big button at the bottom of the email that tells people exactly what to do, sometimes called a call to action. If you're doing a text-only email, you might not have a button, but you're still going to have a little hyperlink text that says watch video or buy the album or whatever it is. If you start writing every email with that in mind first, you'll then be able to very quickly or more quickly determine what the text should be, to be brief and get people to the button. And then you sort of reverse engineer from the subject line. Okay, if this is what the text of the email will be, how do I plant mystery in the subject line to get people to the mystery in the text, to get people to the button? And it's basically reverse engineering.
Yeah. So I think before we go on to the next one with subject lines, these all that you've mentioned really fit together. When you're thinking about text only, we're not talking about writing in giant paragraph form. In fact, a lot of times with email, it works better if you line break between each sentence and then try to figure out how can I make this even less words? There's too many words here. And oftentimes some of the magic of email is just getting to the frickin' point. And that's why I like Chris's thing, start with the button, because if you don't know what you want people to do, say like you have some exciting news and you're like, I just want to tell my fans that I've got some exciting news. Well, that's great. You should absolutely do that. And email is a great way to do that. But what do you want them to do with that news? Do you want them to support you in some way? Do you want them to celebrate and check out some video that you made in celebration of it? Or sometimes they don't have to go anywhere. You might just have some great news you want to deliver. But at least at some point, you might think, well, if you're as excited as I am, let's all stream this song together, or there's some way of like thinking about how you can create some sort of reaction to what you are doing. I love the mystery thing or the question. And when you start with that and reverse engineer it, it helps you create something that's more engaging for your fans. Miles had a good comment here. He said, lately I've been no filter writing my emails and plugging it into Chat GPT and saying rewrite for impact and give me an attention grabbing subject line.
That's great. That's
a great idea. So I think that's a great way to use AI. I know artists are like, what is this AI thing? AI is bad. AI is good. What is it? That's a way to help AI speed your workflow. It's not saying something that wasn't his words. It's just helping him write it better for impact, so he doesn't have to spend as much time becoming an email marketing, copywriting expert.
Yeah. Oh, the next point I said subject lines are clickbait -1. And what I mean by that is think of a clickbaity subject line, something that has a lot of, controversy, impactfulness. And as long as it relates to what they're going to find in the email, leave it. If it feels overly dramatic, dial it back a little bit, -1. But it's okay to think of your subject lines in that sort of sensationalizing way. And an example I'll give of how I sort of orchestrated an email from the button backwards. I had a music video I made once where I got slapped in the face a whole bunch of times. It was like an homage to the LCD sound system video. And so the button, of course, was watch the video. Right above that in the email, I had some brief copy that was like, I made this video where I get slapped in the face repeatedly the whole time. Do you want to see how red my face is at the end of it, or something like that? Then the subject line was something like, the most painful thing I've ever done for my music. And so it's like, what's the painful thing? Oh, you got slapped? How red did your face get? I want to see it. So that was kind of an example of how I used that structure. Two other quick things is I think that most emails that you send should have what's called a super signature. It's a bit of a boilerplate template. It's kind of like a PS, and it's like, get the album here for 20% off. Join this experience. Anything that you have kind of on constant offer, you can put there. And sometimes you put it in smaller font or italicized so that visually it doesn't look like you're making an active like sales pitch every time. It just constantly sits there as like, reminder, I've got stuff for sale. It's a way to drive some passive sales. Lastly, before you send any email, put it through a spam tester. So there's this thing, mail-tester.com. It'll give you a sort of a test email address, put that through the send, and 5 to 10 seconds later, you refresh the page on the tester.com site, and it'll give you a score, 0 through 10 on how spam like it is, how likely it'll be to get through the spam filters. And then before you send the email, if it has critiques, you can then go and address those things.
One thing on the super signature you mentioned, you've got the word super in there. That doesn't mean make 1,000 links.
No, like one or two, maybe.
And the super signature is bigger than your email message. Again, we as artists have a hard time, even the businesses in general, because you'll see businesses in general do this, have a hard time understanding, I'm got to communicate one thing to these people. I want them to take one major point of action. But the idea of the super signature is if you've got a diehard fan or someone who's just exploring and doesn't know much, they might see that and link to maybe a secondary thing or just where they can connect or know more about you. But that's not the place to add your entire bio, everything you've ever done and all that, because I've seen artists do that and you're like, whoa, that's a bit much. One thing, piece of advice I was trying to find, I think it's Sabiriak said, I can't remember. I think it was that. I can't find the comment. It's up, but the idea of like, go subscribe to other email lists. Some companies, some artists, some small artists that actively use their email list, some major label artists. You're going to see that there's a lot of different strategies going on based on the relationship to their fans or their consumers, smaller businesses compared to big businesses. You'll see a lot of strategies being deployed, and it's pretty easy to pick out. That's again, because email, there's not this mysterious algorithms constantly changing what you see. You can start to pick up on patterns and see what works on you. What caused you to click? What caused you to open the email? There's nothing that says you can't use it. Email is also private. So if somebody has a good email idea, you can use it and no one's going to know unless they're on both lists.
So Malia is saying my most opened email had the subject line music theory trauma. Yeah, that sounds intriguing. Also, this is interesting. This points to the concept that not every fan base, not every audience is going to have the same behaviors. When she gives away free downloads, huge open rates. So for me, I actually later in this talk have advice not to do free download offers, but you're just proving me wrong, which is great.
Well, hers are PDFs for her music theory.
Oh, okay. It's not an MP3.
It's
a PDF. I got you. And then Osby's like in the spam filter. Cool.
Yeah.
So let's see. Now we got to ask the question, what is going to be worth your fans' time? Just stop what they're doing, stop scrolling, click to your website, give you their email, and then potentially risk the imposition of you arriving in their inbox every week. There's got to be some cool prize, some lead magnet, as we call it, because free MP3 doesn't cut it anymore. And actually, that really hasn't cut it for about 15 years. You're going to have to offer something cooler for them to join your list. And these are some of the ideas I've seen work really well. The first is a behind the scenes experience. So that's like, hey, join my list and I'll take you on a 5-day adventure through the making of my last album. You know, there'll be all this cool stuff, videos, stories, jokes, legends and lore. It's going to be a blast. Sign up. So that's sort of a retrospective look at your music. One thing I'm about to try is that in reverse, which is like, hey, sign up and you can watch me build this next album in real time. And then they'll be on a sort of segment of my overall email list where anytime I do something to pick a song title or add a synth part or choose the album art, you know, the kind of little decisions that get put into making the album, they'll be on a list that gets all of that sort of as it happens. Another thing I just started trying is get every song I've ever made for free. And I have a whole lot of albums. So that's going to take me a long while to execute, but it's been cool because I have made a habit now of once a week creating a page on my website with a free download of the song, a bunch of stories, the YouTube video, just a bunch of stuff. And then when someone joins my list, they go into this automated flow where over the next 2 or 3 years, they'll get every song I've ever made. And then it also is content I can, if I want to, send to my existing list.
Yeah. Well, I would say if you've got an idea and you're watching this, show in the drop in the comments like, hey, I've tried this with email and it seemed to work, or this might be a good idea. Drop it in the comments. Share your thoughts. We got a couple. John Reed said, when sending from my band's email, if using BCC, are they likely not to be open? John, you do not want to do that because that is what spammers do. If you've ever, I mean, we all get spam, especially it's easy to see if you have a Gmail account. A lot of times it'll be like, they'll, you know, we previously in this live stream, we mentioned the idea of the sender name. So it might be you get an email, it looks like it's from somebody you know or a company you follow, or just something that seems like a real thing. And then you see it looks like it's directly to you, but then you click and they've CC'd an enormous amount of people, or if they're doing it in the BCC to a large degree, even though that's not visible, I'm sure that's something. I mean, that's something that the email platforms like Google and all those can see, and that's going to probably increase the chances of you getting marked as spam. So you don't want to do that. You want to use an email service provider that knows how to send to a full list. Oz B has a question. How do you do behind the scenes stuff with Reverb Nation? That's a Patreon thing, right? Well, there's lots of different ways. Like with Patreon and those kind of services, that's more like a VIP. You get access by logging into Patreon. What Chris is talking about is just that he's created a segment of his list where he's emailing people that have raised their hand saying, yes, I want to be a part of this. And he's segmenting his list. When you get to some of this advanced stuff with email, you're going to have to find an email service provider. That there's some great ones out there. In fact, one that I discovered is called Robly. Chris's last name's Robly, but
and I've never tried it. Oddly enough,
it's super cheap, but it doesn't have the E. Chris's name has an E in it. The email doesn't. That's one that I've come across recently. That's super cheap for and even free for the list sizes that a lot of artists will have. Those things do a lot of more automation, like what we're talking about in segmentation. But again, if you hear anything today, at least start using the one in your Reverb Nation account called Fan Reach, because just start emailing and trying some things. Is you can do all the subject line and the other stuff with that as well.
I was just going to give one detail to that question. For the behind the scenes experience, basically what I did is for every song, I'd create a non-public page, or how do I say it, on my website where you couldn't link to it through the navigation or the footer. The only way to get to that page would be through a link that I put in the email.
And then Malia said, I think a cool email call to action would be to ask people to collab on a track using the BandLab app. That would be like Subject line, let's write a hit together. That would be a good one.
Yeah, and that actually reminds me is that if you have more of like an electronic gear focused fan base, putting stems and saying, join my list and I'll give you all my stuff so you can remix my tracks might be a way to go. Regular VIP access is something you can offer. If you like be first in line to get lessons or co-writing sessions, meet and greets, gated private live streams. And then if you've got knowledge to share, it sounds like Malia did a PDF theory book. You could do a poetry series, tutorials. You could give away, synth sample packs, stuff like that. So basically, the bottom line is it should be something that is worth their time, something really cool.
Yeah, I mean, things like, here's a lead sheet of my latest song so you can play it as well. I did a video series that teaches you how to play my most popular song, or encouraging people to engage in the music in that way. We tend to just focus on sales mode of like, I want you to go do this that will benefit me, as opposed to like, hey, I'm allowing you to deepen your experience with my music, and it becomes more of a community thing of us doing something together.
Looks like Miles is already doing the thing that Malia suggested. That's awesome. Kevin, what are we supposed to spell?
I think he was talking about Robly, the email. I think it's ROBLY. Just search that in email and Google. It'll come right up. And then you'll probably get some ads for some competitors that are also in that similar price range, but it's really great. I even created an account there, but we ended up using something else.
Yeah, so this slide that we're about to leave, again, is ideas for lead magnets. These are things you deliver or experiences that you present through email automation that is worth someone joining your list. But you also have to have ideas for how to keep them engaged, how to keep the audience primed. So nurturing your list, it's going to be an ongoing effort, and we have some ideas for this as well. This would be like when you don't have obvious news to share in real time and you're like, it might be 3 months until something exciting happens.
And that's the hard part for us as artists. We get in this like, I don't have anything to say.
Yeah, what the hell do I say in the meantime?
Just trying to survive. Maybe that's a subject line. I'm just trying to survive.
Well, here's some of the things I came up with. And actually, to go back to one of my lead magnets, my Get Every Song I've Ever Made has become one of these sorts of concepts because I have, 8 or 9 albums. So it's a lot of material for me to go back and write something about every single one of those songs. So I kind of now have this homework set out for me. But if you need other inspiration, you could do like a top 10 favorite lyrics you've ever written and maybe send one per month over the next year. You do your top 5 favorite music videos you've made. Why are they cool? Your most memorable gigs, your best whatever, vocal moments, guitar solos, synth parts, biggest challenges. That could be either, your life, personal challenges, or things about making music. If you want to talk about your inspirations, 5 artists you couldn't live without, that's another thing. You don't always have to talk about yourself. And sometimes it's easier to talk about your admiration for other people. And it's also, those sorts of emails are a great way to prompt questions and be like, here's what I'm listening to. What are you listening to? And then you will find, more often than not, a lot of responses come to those types of emails. And then lastly, I was going to mention that if you've posted something on Instagram, let's say you took a cool photo, it doesn't need to sort of live and die on Instagram. You can use email to share that same content. And again, I mentioned boosting social content through email. This would be a way to do that. You would just want to make sure that there's some value in the text you're putting in an email that drives people to Instagram.
Yeah, there's some great ideas or things on here that point to some potential great ideas for individuals. I like the 5 artists I couldn't live it out without, because if you like a band, chances are you're probably going to like some of their influences. And so those kind of things that you can share deepen the relationship with your fans, but it's also value because people are always looking for, if you're one of their favorite artists, they want to know what other artists they should be checking out. In fact, I think this might be more important than ever, this kind of content, because I think finding music is harder than ever before, even though we have these platforms that give us the promise of giving us access to music. Spotify just recommends the same freaking things over and over again to me. And I'm like, you have 100 million tracks and you keep recommending 30 to me. What is your problem? But one of the things my band did over email, in fact, I need to dig it up because Easter is coming again. My career band is Small Town Poets. I mentioned my musical alter ego, Red Machine, which if you're on Reverb Nation, let's connect there. I'm building out that platform and I'm really just starting to make a go of it with that artist persona. But my career band is Small Town Poets. And I noticed that we had a lot of songs over, now we have like 10 albums, but we had a lot of songs that tied into the theme of Easter. We didn't do an Easter album. We have done Christmas records, but we didn't do anything related to an Easter album. But I just thought, hey, there's a lot of these songs that tied into. So I made like this 5-part email series for the week of Easter, highlighting the story for each song. And at the end of it, people were like, oh my gosh, you guys need to do an Easter album. I'm like, I think we just did. It's just kind of like mining your own musical catalog for content and some things that could relate to maybe what's going on in the world, holidays, anything that's like, hey, here's some themes in my music, and I'm going to create a series out of it and draw people into those tracks. They may not be grouped that way, but that doesn't mean you can't get creative in how you present the stories behind each song and group them together. But that was one of those things where I just pulled out of thin air one week and like, oh, I'm going to do this. And it was a huge success.
When you were talking about your band, I was like, hey, this is a chance for me to do a little self-promotion. So I put a link to my website in the comments if anyone's interested in the lead magnet that I have going right now, or how the automated flow works once you're on the list. You can check that out and join there.
Yeah, absolutely. Check it out.
Oh, I think that was the end of our email.
Oh, that was the end. Oh, wow.
Don't forget that if you're not using email at all, the easiest way to get started is to check out FanReach, which is comes with your membership to Reverb Nation.
Yeah, with the premium member, you get like your list can be huge. So
yeah, distribute music. If you're a premium member, you can distribute as much music as you want, no extra cost. Albums, EPs, singles, remixes, live cuts, demos, release literally whatever you want, sped up versions.
Which I've done. ReverbNation.com. Like you could distribute a song for $1. Seriously, it's $1. That doesn't get you to all the platforms. That gets you to 6 that you choose. And then it goes up from there. But if you are a premium member, which comes with FanReach, the email tool, and a whole bunch of other marketing tools and unlimited music distribution, I just head over to ReverbNation.com. We've got time. Do you have any questions for us regarding to email, to some strategies around email? This is something that Chris and I have done both a lot as artists and working in marketing for many, many years. Email is always a part of it, and we're always trying different strategies and techniques as it relates to email.
Well, Joff, this is a question we might have to ask someone on the operational side. But
Chris and I are just marketing guys.
Yeah,
we just say stuff. It may or may not be true, but
but as marketers, one thing we can brag about for Reverb Nation is we have extremely fast response time. So if you were to file a ticket, go through the support channel on our website, you will get an answer very quickly, and they'll figure it out for you.
Yeah, if you've been frustrated with other distribution services you've been using or other platforms, we have real support. It's super easy to distribute music. Even if you need help with some of the marketing tools, you'll get a response quickly, usually within 24 hours. Sometimes it might take a day longer, but if you've been around long enough, you know that most of the services out there will never respond to you, or maybe even like 6 months later, you'll get an answer to your question for your release that came out 6 months prior that you needed help with that week. Chris and I will be at Folk Alliance in Montreal, Canada, coming up in 2 weeks from today, Chris. We are going to be freezing our butts off 2 weeks from today. I noticed it's like 18 degrees in Montreal.
It's about
for
that
you.
In Maine
for you,
right
that's
now.
normal. So you're
That's
like,
nothing.
yeah, it's normal. You'll be out in shorts and t-shirt, but I'll be bundled up.
Yeah, and as you might be able to see on the screen right now, 2 weeks from now, we will be live streaming from Folk Alliance International. And we might have to wait till we assess the lay of the land to figure out exactly what that'll be, but it's going to be fun no matter what we do. And if you don't know what Folk Alliance is, it is a crazy music festival, music conference where a bunch of folk artists, it's a very broadly defined term, take over a hotel. And there are the sort of lower facilities, the ballrooms and stuff are proper stage-based concerts, and then 3 or 4 floors of the hotel are also taken over, and they've converted all the rooms, taken out the beds and stuff, into tiny little concerts where at any given moment there might be 200 of these things happening at once. It's madness.
It's crazy. Chris used to talk about it for years, and I had this picture in my mind. But when I went, I was like, oh my gosh, because they put up posters it's like college dorm room. It's like a 4-star hotel that turns into 4 floors of college dorm rooms where literally every room is a different music venue, and you just bounce from room to room. And I mentioned it being in freezing cold Montreal, but you never leave the building because you don't need to. So anyway, we will be there and we'll be broadcasting live. We're going to figure out how that works, and we're going to try and get some artists that are there to come on and give some advice and chat.
Oz is wondering how to reach out to us. If it's sort of like a customer support Reverb Nation thing, you can go through the ticketing system on our website. If it's for Kevin or I, these are our handles here on Instagram.
That's me on Instagram, on X, on
all the
TikTok,
things.
But I never hardly look at TikTok, but you can still follow me there. Malia had a question. Let's see. Oh, Jason is, he's going to be there. Jason Baker, we're hosting sing-alongs only, room 1006.
Sweet.
Yeah. So if you like I said, Chris used to go to Folk Alliance every year. And then one year I'm like, okay, I'll finally check this out. And I had this, it's just gonna be a bunch of boring folkies, probably talking about eating vegan food and all this kind of stuff. And it blew my mind. I had the best time of my life. I thought there's nothing better. And lots of rooms will have themes. And a lot of people are there showcasing because there's a lot of industry people there looking to book festivals, for new artists to manage. And so it's just rooms can have a theme. So it sounds like it's all sing-alongs. I look forward to singing along. So definitely say hi. Chris and I are going to have a Reverb Nation booth there. Let's see. There was a question that I saw.
I don't know. Just get to this one real quick. How can I combine emails from different sites into one list? So I'm assuming what you mean is you've collected emails throughout the years in various places. You can always, I should, assuming they're reputable, you should be able to export a CSV or some Excel type sheet with all those contacts, and then whatever email system you end up determining you want to use, just import them all separately into one big list, unless you want to segment them differently.
Yeah, and you know what? We probably should have mentioned this. This is like bonus content here. There's a lot of places where you might be getting emails that you didn't know. Bandcamp is one of them. If you have a Bandcamp presence, they allow people to give their email, and if they've bought something or streamed something or interacted, there's ways where they can they leave their email address. You can get it there. If you've got a Shopify account, if you've got like in Reverb Nation, I just logged into my Red Machine account this morning, was doing some things. There was emails in there that I didn't realize were there. You can download those usually and then combined on a list for wherever you're doing your main email marketing from. You can upload lists to Reverb Nation. You can, a different email server provider, you can upload it to. So there's lots of places where you could have random emails, and combining them together is very important. Make sure you're reaching everybody.
Miles, the closest Folk Alliance came to Key West was New Orleans, maybe 4 years ago.
That was
fun, but everyone went home with pre-COVID.
Yeah, that was January of 2020, Chris. Yeah. We were there.
Everyone went home sick, and I'm pretty sure everyone had COVID.
But we had a great time, so nobody cared.
We did. Jason's going to try the email a week using FanReach. Yeah, please do let us know how it goes. Malia's saying to batch email writing. I completely agree. If you have like an hour, write 5 or 6 emails and schedule them out.
Yeah, I think this is one of those things where, using an AI tool like ChatGPT is so valuable. And And we have some content coming up on the Reverb Nation blog about how to use some of these tools to your advantage more. Because a lot of times people are using them like Google, and that's not how you use them at all. In fact, sometimes the input I put into the Chat GPT AI server thing is just as long as the thing I'm expecting to get kicked back, because I'm giving it context, I'm giving it who I'm trying to reach, I'm giving it all this information so it can write something better. But I use it as a sounding board a lot, like just to generate ideas. And some of them suck and some of them are great. And it's like just getting that thing that it's like sometimes Chris and I will just get on a call together and we'll just throw ideas back and forth. And I use it in that kind of way as well.
I know we're running up on time, but I did want to address this one. Malia says, I need to scrub my email list. If people aren't opening any emails, just get rid of them. Yes, this is really an important point. So if you have a bunch of people on your list who've kind of gone dormant on you, they're not opening anymore, or they're bouncing emails back, you want to get them off your list, because all that's doing, that dead weight, is showing Gmail and Outlook and whoever else that a sufficient portion of your list is disinterested. So why would anyone else want to see it? So it's hurting your overall deliverability and visibility through email. So what you want to do is, it's called a re-engagement series. And that's just sending an email to those people who haven't opened in a long time and being like, hey, what's up? Miss you. It's been a while. If they don't open that one, maybe send one more and be like, hey, I wanted to give you one more chance to stay on my list. And if they don't respond to that, just delete them from your list.
Yeah, the point of email, and this is one of those things where you can tell somebody who doesn't know how to use email effectively if they're talking about solely the size of their list. It used to be, businesses don't do that as much, but they used to be like brag about how big their list is. And it's like, nobody cares how big your list is. Anyone can go buy email lists off the internet. What you want is good open rates, good click-through rates, and people that are engaged. So like those open rates that Chris mentioned, 20% is amazing. You can look online and they'll give you like more detailed breakdowns per industry, but for music, 20% is great. 25% is amazing. Anything above that is outstanding. And that means that people are engaged. Now, if you're getting open rates of like 5% or less, you need to clean your list, because that means a lot of people are getting your emails, they're not interested, or there's some other issue. But that's an indicator of whether or not you have a healthy list. And when you those things behind the scenes, the people that the pipes that send the emails out, they look at that stuff, and it'll make sure that your emails don't get in the right place.
Yeah. All right, Jason, we'll see you in Montreal. Oz, thanks so much for following along. Thanks, Pauline, for tuning in. Kevin, thanks.
And I dropped a link. There was an ask to drop a link to the blog so it's just blog.reverbnation.com. We have lots of great marketing advice and music business advice for artists there. So check it out. And yeah.
One last question. When you first start emailing, what kind of opens should you? So if someone has just joined your list, that first welcome email is statistically the most likely email anyone will ever see from you. So those open rates are usually 50 to 70% sometimes. So yeah, the more recent they are to your list, the more likely they are to open.
Yeah. And the last thing I'd say is like experiment, because if you send an email, like for example, I've been experimenting with how we communicate about this live stream. Last week, I tried something different with the email, and we had 100 people here. And I said, Chris, I think I figured out the format that people are going to pay attention to. And now it's a matter of like, was that just a one-off, or does that format work long-term? We had a lot of people here this week compared to average that we had. So it's like, you have to experiment with things, because if we were just dropping it in a newsletter, less people were noticing it. But we created a certain kind of email, and I tried multiple different formats, and suddenly I was getting the results I wanted. And so you got to experiment. It's easier to experiment here with email with low risk compared to like social, where sometimes we get scared to try things, because if the algorithm finds out no one likes the last 3 posts we fear that no one will see them. And so we kind of go into a mode of non-action, where with email, just try and learn from what you've done, look at what other people are doing, and learn from what they're doing.
Yeah. Well,
All right.
next week we'll be back. And although this sounds like a vague topic for Valentine's Day, 10 things to love about a music career, we'll have actionable advice for you to take home.
And bring your questions. It'll be a good one to bring your questions about music marketing, about music distribution, about collaborations, anything you want. There'll be lots of time to ask questions as well.
All right. Hey, are we doing our after party today?
Yeah, we should.
All right. There's going to be an after party right now-ish, or maybe in several minutes.
On Instagram. Yeah. Reverb Nation Instagram.
Yeah. Join us over there.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
See ya.